Hi, folks. Hope everybody's okay. And it's love to everybody out there. I just want to make a video and basically just to reply to my critics out there. Not that anyone's particularly bothered, but I just want this on record. Um, basically, um, there's an old hymn by Francis Ridley Havergal, and in the hymn it says, "Take my life and let it be consecrated, Lord, to me. Take my moments and my days and let them flow in ceaseless praise." And, you know, for me, all I want to do is to do God's will and to honor Him. And I will do what God wants me to do. And what God wants me to do with my life is to evangelize, to be on the streets evangelizing, and to be teaching the Bible. I'm gifted at it, and I'm trained at it, and that's what I'm gifted at doing and trained to do, and meant to do with my life. Um, anybody who knows me, anybody who knows me when I'm preaching in church, knows that that's my gift. Anybody who knows me, who's seen me teach the Bible, knows that that's my gift. Anybody who's been with me on the streets knows that that's my gift. Very often, it's not recent, the last few weeks, but very often in the street preaching, there'll be crowds of people that come round to listen. That's very, very rare. It's very rare to see a street preacher actually preaching and crowds come. And when they come, we've been able to engage with them and discuss with them. But one thing that hardly any preachers can do, street preachers, is to debate and discuss. And it's a really good gift to have. And the other thing about my street preaching is that I'm not anti-intellectual, so I do a lot of reading, a lot of preparation. So when I meet people on the streets, especially in universities, people really appreciate the fact that I take the time to listen to them and answer the questions. Now, when I go on the streets, there are Muslims out there are Jehovah's Witnesses out there are Mormons out there, all pumping their teaching. And we find very, very few Christians actually out. The ones that are out are either hyper charismatic or hyper reformed, where they're so dour that they put people off because the reformed are like very, very dour, and nobody like really goes to them. And then you have the hyper charismatics who mainly use music and rap and things like that. But there are very few preachers that actually just preach the cross, can engage with people, who God uses to get a crowd, and then you can talk to them. So the gift that I have is a very rare gift, and it's a massively needed gift. Not only that, God has used me to encourage other people to do the work, because I often supply evangelists. If you look here, I have boxes of literature. If you can see, boxes of literature that I often supply other evangelists. People send me all across the world, from America and all the places. They send me literature, and then what I do is I supply others with literature. So, the other day I went to Liverpool and I took a box of Chinese tracts to my brothers, and they see a lot of Chinese people get converted at Liverpool University. And so, God is using me to help other people, supply other people, because other people are supplying me. There are people who do DVD. There's someone who does the DVDs for me, someone who gets me tracks from Wales. There's another couple of groups that send me literature, and then I give it out to others. So, you know, there's a big supply chain going on in the cities that God is using me to help people with. Also, I don't go out on my own. There's often teams. I mean, last week we had about 9 people out with me. So, you know, we work with teams and we're accountable, and I'm accountable, you know. So, you know, it's not like a lot of street preachers, they do it on their own. And I don't do it on my own. I do it with a wide variety of Christians from different churches. And we work together as a team. And there's about 9, sometimes, you know, we can have about 9 people from different churches, Reformed, Charismatic, pro-Zion, pro-Israel, whatever, Christians, and we're all together, Armenians, and we're all together, and we're all working together, sharing the gospel. And it's important that if you're doing service for the Lord, that you're accountable, you know. So there's a lot of things like that are going on. There's a lot of there's also a book and literature distribution going on, where there's a book table in the centre of Manchester, and always there every week, where people can come and take literature. And we have vast amounts of people over the year that come and take literature, and then we see them again. And many of them are Muslims, many of them are people who are just young people searching. So we get a lot of people taking literature from the table, you know, and that's why I need a lot of literature sent to me, because we use so much literature. So, you know, we're doing a great work, and it's not just me, there are others that we do it together, you know. It's not about me or my empire. No, it's about spreading the gospel. You know, and there were times when I went out a few years ago when I was on my own, and it was really hard. But now we've got a great team, we've got great people, and I just love the guys who come and help me. I just absolutely love them. They're just brothers in arms. Sorry about this. Sorry. So there's tons of literature going out. We work as a team. We work with other churches, you know. We're often in a very hostile. We used to have. We don't get as many at the moment, but we used to have a lot of militant, hardcore Muslims who used to come and really cause us trouble. We've had threats. We've had people come in and try to be violent towards us. We've had all sorts of things like that happen over the couple of years. And it's been in all types of weather, rain, snow, whatever, you know. And that's dedication, that's commitment. And over those years, very, very few Christians are out there doing what we do. And not only that, it's not only in Manchester, but in Liverpool, and it's been over other places over the years, where we've been to universities such as Leeds, Bradford, many universities, many towns. You know, so God has been doing a good work, a great work. And, you know, for people to criticize and to say whatever they want to say, I mean, at the end of the day, if I had a choice, and I really mean this, if I had a choice of working for a big church for 30 grand a year with immense, or doing what I'm doing, working with the guys that I work with, the team that I'm with, doing what I'm doing on a pittance, I would do that, because I really, really enjoy it. Also, I'm doing this like little church plant, which it involves a sermon and a Bible study. And I'm not just saying it, but it is a rich ministry where people really appreciate that Bible teaching. It's not of me. I didn't ask to do it. People asked me to do it. And people are coming and people are being fed and people are being blessed because it's just the word, because people are tired of going to church where people are just laughing or doing putting on videos in the service, or where the preachers are just not expounding the word, and done in a way that's down to earth, but in a way that is meaty. A lot of these reformed churches can be a bit too you can't be yourself in them. You get the word, but you can't really be yourself. And here people can be themselves but still get the meat of the word. And people are really blessed by it and really encouraged. I mean, I was asked to give a lecture. I gave a lecture on Bultmann, and people were blessed on that. I've helped a lot of people. People come to me in town with mental illness problems. I've helped them. I helped a guy who was in hospital, and he was in a terrible mess, and his mum was absolutely broken-hearted, distraught. She came to see me because he came to the table once, took literature, and I was able to go to the hospital and mediate, go to the courts because he was going to court, and mediate with the court, mediate with the hospital, mediate with his mum, and able to get that family back together again. And there are people that come into town who are Christians who are struggling with various problems, and I've been able to get alongside them and encourage them. God's used me to rally Christians to do more evangelism. More people are getting out, doing evangelism now together, working as a team. I give out loads of books to preachers. I give out books to young preachers still, which I've always done. And like this little fellowship that we do. I mean, again, if I was asked to work in Audacious or some church that's a big church with thousands of people, and they said, we'll give you 30 grand and a manse, I couldn't do it. I couldn't leave the group that I'm teaching at the moment, because I love them so much and I prefer being with them than being in a big church. So for me, I'm really happy in what I'm doing. And people can criticize, people can say whatever they want, but at the end of the day, you have to do what God wants you to do, and where God is blessing you, and God is blessing me. He has provided a really good group of people who want to study the Word, who I'm accountable to, who are mature Christians, who are helping me to grow, helping me to get back to doing what I love doing, with a great team out on the streets, great people who just love the Lord, and we love each other. And in all that, I'm accountable with brothers and sisters working together for the gospel. So people can say whatever they want. A video was released. A friend of mine videoed me preaching, and I was speaking in an American accent. And sometimes I can be a bit of a character sometimes, and the preaching was a bit flowery in terms of like I was jumping up and down. But they don't know on that day it was a very, very cold day. Hardly anybody was stopping, and I was just trying to be a little bit more entertaining. But when I'm preaching, I really care about people. I really, really do. I care about souls, and I care about the gospel. And so for people to say, "Oh, well, look at him," he doesn't really care because he's preaching the way he is. It's just rubbish. It's absolute rubbish. People who see me every week in the streets, both people who pass by and people who work with me, know that I care about people. They know that I'm a gospel man. And the fruit is, the seeds going out, and we're seeing fruit. We're seeing people who are coming back to us, who want our support, who want to know the Lord. And we don't build empires. I don't invite people when I'm out to come to my group that I do or this group that I'm doing. I don't do that. Sometimes I might mention it, but I've got literature for other churches, a Baptist church, charismatic church, other churches, and their literature on the table. So, I'm not just encouraging them to like a Reformed fellowship, but, there's other churches that we encourage people to go to. So we're not building an empire. We're sending people out to other churches, encouraging other people to go to other churches, not trying to get them to our little group and be our little clone. So we do a lot of really good things. And over the years, I mean, I've helped so many people, even in my own brokenness, I've helped a lot of people. And, people can judge as well, we all make mistakes. We all fail. We all make mistakes. But to tar people and to judge people because they're divorced or something like that, it's terrible. It's absolutely disgusting to judge anybody just because someone's divorced or something. That's a judgmental, disgusting attitude, because we shouldn't be like that as Christians. You shouldn't label people. And then for people's mistakes, well, there's an old saying that we in churches, they shoot their officers, but they don't restore them. And I feel like John Wesley and George Whitefield myself. I feel like the church is failing to be the church, being a place of grace. It's often a place of judgmentalism, and it's often a place where people can't go, because if they go, they're judged rather than just grace applied to them. There are principles that we have to stand by. Don't get me wrong, we have to stand by certain principles. But I feel like George Whitefield and Wesley, where they were out of the church and they were in amongst the people. And that's how I feel. I don't feel really that I belong. I mean, I am in a fellowship. I do go to a church. I have been on a leadership team recently, although I've come off it. I have, but I still don't feel I belong, because I don't feel like God's people really, I just find that yeah, I feel I'm I'm not restored, to be honest. I feel like the church hasn't restored me, hasn't brought me in. I mean, my home church that I was recently at, I mean, I enjoyed being there, and I was even preaching. But I wasn't a minister there. I wasn't a pastor there. So as far as I was concerned, I wasn't restored. But I was on the leadership team. I was like an elder, preaching and teaching and stuff. But I still felt that I was being held back. I wasn't being restored. I felt that people were proud and really didn't want to lift me up and work comfortable with my giftings in that situation. And I felt like God was raising me up, and then people were holding me back. So that, that's why I stepped down, because it was a church that I loved the people, but it was a church that needed certain things, pastoral visitation and Bible teaching, and it's a charismatic church, and they just didn't appreciate expository preaching. And that's why I came off, because that's what they needed. They needed expository preaching, and they didn't want it. They wanted to talk about dreams and things like that, But I mean, the pastor there, I love to bits. I love him to bits, and I love the people there to bits, and I miss them. But what I'm saying is, I don't feel like I've come home yet. I don't feel like I've been restored. Um, but for me, I do have a fellowship here, which is like a church. We have just as many people as some of the churches down the road or up the road come. Um, but there's no official election of a pastor or an elder or anything like that. But it is like a church. It is a church, like a church plan. And people are blessed and people encouraged, but I still don't feel restored. And my home, for me, is on the streets. When I see broken people, when I see hurt people, I can appreciate where they're coming from. When I see people who were rejected, when I see people who were judged, when I see people who were broken, my heart goes out to them because that's where I've been, that's how I've been. So my heart goes out to them. And it gives me a peculiar love for people and a care for people on the streets. And also it gives me a compassion in my preaching, because I really feel for people, because I know what it's like to feel rejected. I know what it's like to feel pushed out. I know what it's like to feel when your own people, so-called evangelicals, are not there for you. So people can, what I'm saying is people can judge and they can say all manner of things and what have you, but people don't know your heart. They don't know all the good that you do behind the scenes. They just see certain things and they make snap judgments, you know. A lot of people have been helped over the years, and a lot of people have been touched by the gospel, touched by the ministry. And we don't boast. We don't tell people everything that goes on. We don't say, I don't say I've been with people where regularly lots of Chinese Christians have been saved over the years with the ministry that I've been involved in, helping some evangelist friends who've seen lots of Chinese Christians converted. And, we don't boast about that. We don't say, and they don't boast about it. We just get on and do it. And that's the other thing as well. There's a lot of work being done by street preachers and evangelists. And the church doesn't give them credit. The church doesn't support them. The church is not there for them. The church doesn't finance them. And these people are doing 10 times more work than any local churches. The evangelists that I know and the street preachers that I know, a lot of them are doing 1,000,000 times more work than the churches. The churches aren't doing hardly anything. And it's a scandal that these people are not paid salaries for what they do, because I know a couple of evangelists in particular who are out there all the time. They finance themselves. They do a bit of work here and there. And they're out there all the time, but they should be getting paid for what they do, because they do a fantastic work. And they should be getting the finances, and they don't get the kudos, they don't get the respect from the church or from Christians because they're street preachers or evangelists. And it's not right, because they're doing 1,000,000 times more work than the churches are reaching people. So people can judge and they can say whatever they want, but you don't know when I get in at 10 o'clock at night and I've been out from early morning till late at night sharing the gospel. I've had abuse all day. It's a cold day, freezing cold, and come in. You don't know when I've been to travel to Liverpool and I come back late at night, or some town. You don't know what's going on. You only know a small part of my life and a small part of what I do. You don't know how many times I've helped mentally ill people where I've had to go and liaise with doctors and professional people to help mentally ill people because the system's abusing them and they need support and they need help. You don't know how much time I've spent helping people like that. You don't know anything about things like that I've done. How I've helped young people who've got into a mess and they needed support. You don't know that much about me and the good things that I have done and continue to do. So you can criticize and judge, And you can see these old videos on YouTube and whatever. But if you can't judge a man unless you meet the man. You can't judge a man unless you get to know the man. And if you spent a week with me, if you spent time with me, yeah, you'll see my faults and you'll see my weaknesses, but you'll see also the heart of what I am. And my heart is just a genuine, sincere heart of wanting to preach the gospel and to build people up in the word. That has always been my heart. And I might fail, and I might make mistakes, and I might have weaknesses and even glaring failings, but that's my heart, and that is what I'm about, and that is where I thrive, and that is what I do the best. If I wanted to, if I really, really wanted to, there's no reason why I couldn't get a post as a chaplain in a hospital, or a post in as a missionary, or a post as a pastor. There is no reason why I couldn't do that and get a decent salary of 25 grand, 30 grand, or whatever. There's no reason why I couldn't do that, to do my MA or PhD or whatever. But what I get a buzz out most of all is when I'm on the streets and there's a student at a university somewhere, and he's talking, or she's talking to me, and she starts talking, they starts talking and asking questions, and I can tell them that I've read Kant and Derrida, and then I can answer their questions. That's what I get a buzz out. When I meet a Muslim and they start criticizing the Bible, and I can answer the criticisms and then talk about the Quran and the history of the textual criticism, and then share the gospel with them. I get a buzz out of that. I get a buzz out of spending time studying the word, teaching it and expounding it, and encouraging others to use their gifts to be able to expound it, to say, right, okay, I've done some Bible studies now. You have a go, you do it. I get a buzz out of that. I get a buzz of spending time studying the word and then expounding it on a Sunday and seeing people built up and encouraged. I get a buzz out of that. That's what I get a buzz out of. That's what excites me. That's what makes me live. That is my passion. Excuse me. That's my passion. My passion isn't to be a security guard. My passion isn't to be a bus driver. That's not my passion. But I could labor for hours and hours and hours in the word. I can labor for hours and hours and hours in study. I can labor. Not many people can do that. I can labor on the streets sharing the gospel, because that's my passion. That's what I love to do. That's where I love people. And I'm uniquely gifted for these things. I'm uniquely gifted for the streets. There are very few street preachers that can do what I can do. When I've preached, there have been big crowds, and we've had debates in the street, on the street, with massive crowds. And there are very few street preachers that can do that, actually debate and keep a crowd, not for 10 minutes, but like for an hour, like 100 people in a crowd. There are very few people that are actually gifted to be able to do that. And, it hasn't happened like recently, the last few weeks, but last year it was happening regularly, nearly every week. And, there are very few people that can do that. That's a unique gift. It's a unique gift to be able to talk to people and then answer their questions, really answer their questions and engage with them on a one-to-one, where you're listening to them and dialoguing with them, and then bringing in the gospel, sharing in the gospel. And Christ can redeem everything. David had failings, Moses has failings, we've all had failings, and we can all judge each other. You can judge or whatever, but at the end of the day, there are issues in your life that you need to sort out. There is stuff in your life that you need to get right in your life. There are people who criticize me, who I know for a fact have wrecked churches, destroyed churches, and then they're criticizing me, and they've wrecked churches, totally wrecked them. There are people who criticize me, and their lives are a mess. People who are criticizing me, they've got broken relationships. They've got issues with depression and whatever. you know. So people can criticize, but until you get to know a person, until you get to spend time with a person, you don't know that person. You don't know what that person's going through. You don't know what that person does, you know. And at the end of the day, are you out there? Are you out on the streets every week, nearly every day? Are you out doing it in rain, in snow? Eh, Uh, are you out there regularly all the time? Or do you want to be praised of men and respected of men and honored of men and be called this and be called that, reverend this or whatever, and you want all this respect? But are you out there on the streets? Are you out there talking to people? Are you out there sharing the love of Christ? Are you out there day in, day out? Are you talking to the Muslims? Are you talking to the witnesses? Are you out there week in, week out, up and down the country sharing the gospel? Because I am. And, what about you who promote things that are not good, that are evil? And you criticize me, you're promoting evil. You're promoting things that are evil. And yet, you criticize me. And to take advantage of someone, to take advantage of someone's weakness, to take advantage of someone who has not been at the best, and and to be so weak yourself, to have such weaknesses yourself that you have to, as a movement, the atheist movement is so weak and so fragile and so pathetic that it has to take the weakness of a man who wasn't at his best, who wasn't well, has to take that weakness and use it to promote atheism. Shows how weak atheism is. You know, that's not being a man. That's not being a woman. That's not being mature. That's not being a person of dignity. That shows how weak you are. It shows how small-minded you are. It shows how messed up inside you are. That you would take advantage of someone who was broken and hurt, rather than actually say, this guy's hurting. Let's come alongside and support him. Like one or two actually did. But to be scared of the guy's boldness, to be scared of the guy's audacity, to be scared of that, because you were scared. And full of fear yourself. That's why you had to have an archive channel. That's why you had to make all those abusive videos that you did. That's why you had to gang up on me. It's because you were full of fear and you scared yourself. And you had and you saw issues in me that were issues in yourself, and it was self-projection. But until you sit down with someone, until I sit down with you, or you sit down with me, you never know who we really are. You never know who I am, and I can never know who you are. I can never really judge you, and you can never really judge me until you sit down with me and you really get to know me. And then when you get to know a person, you don't have the right to get to know someone. You have to earn the right. You have to earn the right to build trust. You have to show that you're trustworthy in order to be able for a person to open themselves up. You don't just get an automatic check-in. All right, you know, you have to earn that right. You have to build trust. And when I think of Christ, you know, he didn't do anything to mitigate any criticism, but yet he got loads of criticism. But I mean, his criticism was fierce. I mean, his was really, really fierce. But yet he maintained the walk of going to the cross. And I deserve criticism because I have failed. I have made mistakes. But it says in that old hymn, you know, you know, I think that, 31, you know, the gospel covers our sin if we truly repent. I remember someone saying to me, the cross covers every sin, every failure, every weakness, you know. And he says in Psalm 31, amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found, was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. Through many dangers, toils, and snares I have already come. 'Tis grace that brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. That sums me up really. John Newton was a slave trader, a blasphemer, and he found Christ. Paul said, I'm the chief of sinners. And I've made mistakes. And I'm not perfect. But the cross covers my sin. The cross covers my failure. And I'm living under the cross. That's where I'm standing, and that's what I want to do with my life. Is I want to live under the cross, I want to live the cross, and I want to proclaim the cross. And you can do whatever you want with your life. But that's what I want to do with my life. That is what gives me passion for life. When I survey the wondrous cross on which the Prince of Glory died, that is what gives me passion. That is what gives me strength for life. And I might have failed, and I might have made many, many terrible videos in the past. But my heart, for all its mistakes, for all its failure, has and wants to proclaim the cross of Christ. Our lives and the words that we speak should point to that. And that's what I want to do. Because I believe it. I believe that Christ died. I believe that He's my Savior. I believe that He's my Lord. So, you do what you want with your life. You get on with your life. And you do your life. You want to be gay? You go and be gay. You want to be a reformed minister who's got no love and judging everybody? You go and be doing that. You want to be a troll atheist who's going around messing people's lives up and saying nasty things, and want to pick on a Christian who's had a bit of a breakdown, and you still want to drag him into that old life? And if that's what you want to do, and you want to have nasty comments under those videos and try and pervert people's minds towards that person because you're so small-minded and you've got nothing better to do than to pick on somebody rather than to do something with your life more honourable and better, you go and do that. You want to be a Christian who looks on and doesn't say anything, and you're getting on with your life, whatever it is, and you look on and you think, I've never made any mistakes. Look at that terrible video he made. Look at them videos he made. And he's got himself in a right mess or whatever. You get on with your life and you do whatever you want to do. But Paul said, I'm not ashamed of the gospel, for it is the power of God unto salvation. And I will live and I will die as a gospel preacher. I will live and I will die as a gospel preacher. I might not have the kudos, the honor, and the respect of the establishment. But whose hands is in the muck of life? Whose hands are in the trenches? Whose hands are getting the bullets flying at them? Whose hands are getting ripped apart? Whose hands are going in there and grabbing the sheep and crying out to them, come to the Lord? It's my hands. And if I don't get any respect or honor from the church or from you, I don't care. Because these hands are not your hands, they're his hands. And if he says to me, go out and get the sheep, if he says to me, go out and preach the word, if he says to me, feed my lambs, then I will feed the lambs. Because he said to Peter, when Peter had fallen, he said, do you love me, Peter? And he said, yes, Lord. He said, feed my lambs. Do you love me, Peter? He said, yes, feed my lambs. And Peter fed the lambs, and he was crucified upside down. And I'll feed the lambs. I'll feed them the finest of the wheat, and I'll feed them till my dying day. Whether I'm paid or not paid, it's not any business of you. It's his business. And if he says to feed them lambs, then I'll feed them. And if you haven't got the wisdom, if you haven't got the discernment, if you haven't got the knowledge to see that the wheat, the finest of the wheat, is being given in these meetings here, if you haven't got the wisdom and knowledge to see that there is a love within me to reach people, then that is your problem. That is your narrow-mindedness. That is your small-mindedness, not mine. I am his servant, not yours. This is my life, not yours. You sort your life out. You get your house in order. I don't spend my time smoking wacky backy. I don't spend my time getting drunk. I don't spend my time doing some of the things that maybe you do. I'm not judging you. I'm not judging you. I'm not judging you for those things. I don't sit here when your relationship's broken up or whatever, and I know one or two people out there whose relationship has broken up. I've not rubbed it in your life. I know some people who criticize me there, whose ministry is an absolute wreck, who are ministers and ministers, and they've wrecked churches. I know about you. I'm not rubbing it in. I'm not telling people about what you've done. Don't judge me until you get to know me, until you get to walk with me, until you get to feel my heart. And don't judge me unless you love me, unless you've shown that you've loved me, unless you've been here in my life and you have shown that you love me, then I'll take your judgment. There are people who I know in this fellowship here and who I respect on the streets as street preachers, that I know they love me, and I know if they tell me, Jay, there's something not right in my life, or if they say something, I'll do what they say. I'll listen to what they say, because I know that they love me. So they have a right to judge me, but don't you judge me if you don't love me, if you don't care about me. Gonna gonna go. I'm just gonna I'm not a boxer. I'm not a plumber. I'm a preacher. And if you don't like it, that's your problem. Says in Philippians chapter 1 verse 6, being confident of this very thing, that he which had begun a good work in you will perform it until the day of Jesus Christ. Even it has been meet for me to think this of you, all because I have you in my heart, inasmuch as both in my bonds and in the defense and confirmation of the gospel you are partakers of grace. In the defense and confirmation of the gospel. That's all I can do. That's all I can do. In the defense and confirmation of the gospel. I'm just going to sing and then pray. Excuse me. It is a thing most wonderful, almost too wonderful to be, that God's own Son should come from heaven and die to save a child like me. And yet I know that it is true. He chose and poor and humble Lord, and wept and toiled and died for love of those who loved him not. I sometimes think about the cross and shut my eyes and try to see the cruel nails and crown of thorns, and Jesus crucified for me. But even could I see him die, I could but see a little part of that great love, which like a fire is always burning in his heart. I cannot tell how he could love a child so weak and full of sin. His love must be most wonderful. If he could die, my love to win. It is most wonderful to know his love for me so free and sure, but 'tis more wonderful to see my love for him so faint and poor. And yet I want to love thee, Lord. Oh, light the flame within my heart, and I will love thee more and more until I see thee as thou art. Well, I think I know I've said it a million times, but I was listening to Ravi Zachariah the other day, and he was saying how, he's a guy who's got an impeccable character and has done a great work as an apologist. And he was speaking at a university, and he had a massive crowd heckling him, and he had to have a bodyguard. And I think that's because of the internet. I think because of the internet and what goes on the internet, it creates a mob mentality. And even people like William Lane Craig and Ravi Zachariah, who have got good reputations, are treated abysmally and terribly, and on the internet, and then it dovetails into real life. And I think that the internet's toxic, and I think from now on, if I put anything on, I might put a video on Facebook or on my website or on Twitter every now and again. Not a video that I've made, unless it's an old video. So that's gonna just every now and again, every now and again, I'll be doing that. But as far as YouTube's concerned, it's just toxic, because even if you do a good work, they just don't allow you to have the freedom to be able to express yourself. There's just so many trolls out there that are negative, and so much abuse out there, and so much abuse that's going on about me on the internet. That I don't want any. I don't want to experience it anymore. I don't want to be dragged into it or to get down because of it. I just used to, and still do, enjoy making videos. I do enjoy it. I just love making videos. It's like someone likes playing chess. I like to make videos, but it's just so toxic out there that you can't really do it without abuse, really. And the comments, I don't allow comments on my videos, because there's a group of 50 people that will come on my channels, and they'll just put nasty things on my channels, and they'll just say nasty things. And so they go and set up channels where they put my videos on, and then they can commentate on them. And it's not about freedom of speech, because they're not discussing the ideas that I put out there. That people, these other archive channels, they just allow systematic abuse, and it's terrible abuse. And Christians go and listen to it and read it like idiots, not realizing it's just pure, unadulterated abuse. And if I wasn't strong in God, the abuse that they allow could make someone commit suicide. There are people who've committed suicide with less abuse than what I've received. The abuse that have been allowed on these archive channels, and the comments that have been made, could have made someone commit suicide. And yet they think it's funny, and they think it's okay, and they say it's about free speech, but it's not. It's just about people who have got sick minds, who want to destroy someone and hurt someone who was already vulnerable. And that's the kind of mentality that people are at. And I don't want to be around people like that. I don't want to be around a culture that supports that. I don't want to I don't want to associate myself with people who can abuse people like that. And who think it's funny to make people feel so bad about themselves. It's very, very serious, that the abuse that they have done and they've allowed and they continue to do. Because it could, if that's done to a celebrity, there are celebrities that get the same abuse. There are famous people that get the same abuse. There young people in school and colleges that get that kind of abuse, and they commit suicide. And if I read some of the things that these people have put on these YouTube archive channels, you could easily commit suicide because of the total abuse that they allow. But I don't read their comments, and I don't bother with them, and I'm stronger than that, and I'm much happier being away from that. And so it's good to be away from YouTube, because it's just a toxic environment, which is a shame, because there's a lot of good stuff that I did do. There's a lot of good material out there as well that people could use, and that is valuable. There's a lot of Bible teaching and lectures. You can get contact if you go on my YouTube channel, jasonburnspreacher.com. You can go on my website, jasonburnspreacher.com, and you can see the work some of the work that I've done. A lot of it's been lost. I lost a lot of. I think I've lost about 4,000 academic videos because of these things that have gone on. These people trying to take away my rights. So there's only a small percentage of what I've done on YouTube that could show you a different kind of person that I am, but you can see a small percentage of it on my website, where you can get more of an idea of who I am and what am I about. So I feel like I'm in a good place. I'm in a happy place. I'm in a joyful place. And I know I've said it a lot. I know I've gone on and on and on, and I've said it a lot. But I just think it's toxic, and it's never going to change, and it's never going to be sorted out. And if I just make a video, it just reminds these trolls and these people that I'm around, and then they just get excited, and then they want to be abusive. When that video of me came out street preaching, it was on an obscure channel with a friend of mine who put it on, and within minutes the atheist community found it, and they were on it and making negative comments. It's crazy, absolute crazy. So you can't exist in an environment like that. You haven't got the freedom to be yourself. You haven't got the freedom to. They're just going to jump on you and abuse you. They're not there to dialogue with you, debate with you, discuss with you. Like said Bernie the Healer. If you want to look at a good debates with me, go on Bernie the Healer's channel. So it's toxic. It's not worth being on YouTube. And I just feel that there's more productive things to do. So if you don't see me around, you know why. I know I'm always saying it, and then I'm back, but I've come to the point where it's not God's will for me to be abused and continually abused from time to time by these trolls and people who. So when I've done this video, I'm not going to be looking at my YouTube channels. I'm not going to be bothered about what's happening or anything. I'm just going to forget about it and get on with other things that I've been doing. So yeah, so all right, I'm just sharing my heart. I'm just replying to critics out there. At the end of the day, my life is my life, your life is your life, and I'm called to preach the gospel. If you doubt my call, there's my call. Feed my lambs. When I was ordained, it was written on the wall of the church. It was put on a cake. It was put in the Bible readings. It was put in the hymn service. This text. It was all over the place. I never chose that. It wasn't declared once. It wasn't declared twice. It was declared 3 times, 4 times. Feed my lambs. So I'll feed the lambs, and you do whatever you want with your life. All right. God bless you, and take care.